you want to beat yourself up because you got to that place where you really lost control, and so forth. So it's something that it's a war, and it's a battle over, and it's a power struggle. It's almost like tug of war. If you've ever played that, to where every y'all play that when you're in school, you had a big long rope and everybody gets on it and you got a knot in the middle and you pulling it this way and that, and everybody's pulling one way or the other. Well, Satan's certainly on the other end of your rope, and if he knows he's got you in the area of anger, guess what's going to happen quite regularly? That power struggle is going to come up, and it comes up in many cases because we're still very self-centered. It's still about us, and you have hurt my feelings, or you have said or done something that I didn't want you to do. So it's very self-oriented, and you've got to be willing to recognize when you get angry. And I'll tell you something about anger and about the war you're in. If you can just, and it's not that hard, and part of capturing the thought that we were talking about on a regular basis is, what good is it going to do for me to get angry at this moment? Or what is it going to do me to say something right now? And you evaluate what you're fixing to say and say, is this going to help or is this going to hurt? Is this going to be productive or not? In many cases, you will find that when anger is your initial response, is very seldom does it have a productive end. It will always be negative, and it will make things worse instead of better. And so what do we say? Just like if you were in a situation talking to somebody about certain things and words mattered, you would garner your words. You would consider before you said it what you were going to say. And so life is much like that. Words matter, and God wants you to begin to get control of these power struggles going on inside of you. In 2 Corinthians 10, verse 3, for though we walk in the flesh, we do not war according to the flesh. In other words, you're walking in the flesh. We're all in the same position trying to get to the same place, but to accomplish what God wants you to accomplish, you're not going to fight the war that we're describing in the flesh. Okay? And that's what most of the world is trying to do. They're trying to fight it within the confines of the flesh, and you will lose that battle. Always lose it. God says you fight this battle in the spiritual realm. You fight it with a different level of intensity in your. So he says you don't fight, for the weapons of our warfare are not carnal. Verse 4. The weapons of our warfare are not carnal. Now, carnal is worldly. Carnal is the things of the world. The weapons that we use are from God. They are spiritual. In other words, the sword of the Spirit. Those sorts of things that will help you to defeat and to win the war of anger. But mighty in God. It's not carnal, but mighty in God. What? For pulling down strongholds. So the stronghold of anger can be pulled down. It can be defeated. And first, we have to submit to God. I've got the process kind of laid out. I'm probably going to spend a little time on it Sunday, but if you'd like a copy of the process that I have put together for you, I really believe that it's a very important concept. I really believe you need this one as well, the spiritual ones that we're actually studying, one of those being anger. And those verses, you're in the Word every day, okay? And you're going through these spiritual conditions, one, going to the next one, okay? Y'all know the plan there. But the process that I'll describe here for you, and I'm not going to really get into it, but it starts out with submission, okay? You have to submit to the reality of anger. I've got a problem, okay? I've got a problem. In the area of fear, you've heard enough. You say, I've got a problem with fear. I'm insecure, this and that. I see it. And I respond in fear over and over and over again. My life is controlled by fear. Submit to it. God is the only one that's going to help you get to that place. So submission is the focus on your relationship with Christ right on down the line. So what this will do, this process will show you how to begin to conquer, not only to be transformed in whole, okay? In other words, to be transformed into the image of God in time. The process does that. But as far as specific items within your transformation, the fears, the anxieties, the confusions, the anger that we're talking about tonight, those will be destroyed or defeated by God through the process, okay? And so you can pick one of these up if you'd like one after the service today. And so you go through the process, and you examine, okay? You examine, and that will help you submit to the fact that I might have a problem with anger, and then you examine your anger, examine yourself to see it playing out, and then you identify. Once you're able to identify, then you have the capacity to defeat it, okay? You can't beat an enemy you can't see, okay? You can swat at the air all you want to, but until you actually see the enemy, you're not going to defeat him. You have to be able to defeat this enemy by identification. So once you're able to see the anger, then you have the capacity through God's strength to help you to defeat that. So it's not carnal. That's mighty in God for pulling down strongholds, and anger is certainly a stronghold. Do y'all see that in your life? I mean, some of you see these strongholds that I'm describing? Do y'all see them in your life working? Okay. If you're not seeing them, I'd like to meet with you and try to help you to see them, because Satan is very deceptive in the sense that he will hide these. Anger is not really one of them that's very well hid, though, right? I mean, just ask your wife or your husband, do I have a problem with anger? And I won't get angry if you tell me the truth. Okay? But some of the others, like fear and anxiety is not that hard to see either, to be honest with you, because some of you certainly know what anxiety. Now, fear is, confusion can certainly be very deceptive and very hard to see. But as you identify them, you recognize them as a stronghold. It's a bondage, okay? And it controls you and will manipulate you. It scares you as to how I might respond in life. It scares others because of how you will respond. So your kids become scared of you in the sense of how they deal with you because of your anger. And so you have built walls where people can't get very close because of your anger. So casting down the arguments and every high thing that exalts itself against the knowledge of God. So all of these spiritual conditions that we're describing here are high things, things that have declared they have power, and they're not going anywhere unless you are willing to identify them and cast them out. So you have to bring God into your life in the sense of giving you the power to defeat this enemy, and that is the process, okay? And so you don't sit around and worry about the results. Oh my gosh, I've been angry all my whole life, and I know I'll never be able to quit. Oh, I just have to give up already. I mean, that's focusing on the results. In other words, you can't trust God long enough to get past yourself to believe that God can help you defeat it. So what you have to do is you have to trust the process that God is laying out for you. He's laying out a process. If I'll just submit to God, if I'll just submit to Him, His word promises that I will defeat in time the power of anger. See what I'm saying? So you begin the process, and that will carry you to a place that one day you'll wake up and you say, wow, I hadn't been angry in quite a while. What is wrong? I don't feel the fear operating in me like it was. I just don't have the anxiety I had before. See, God is doing it because you're not focusing on the results, you're focusing on the process. That is the key, folks, to your transformation. Some of you want to be a Christian and you ask Jesus into your heart and then you just stop and say, did anything happen? Is everything complete yet? Am I done? See, you're thinking that you're waiting on a result that God says is a process of faith. It's a walk of faith. And so God says, you accept me as Lord and Savior. Don't expect all the results to be perfect and everything's going to be wonderful. You remember, it's a process to get you to that place. So he says, you bring in God to challenge anything that stands against God or declares itself high. Bring every thought, here we go, every thought into captivity to the obedience of Christ. So this is where we go back to capturing the thought. If you don't capture the thought, then you're going to continue to fail. In other words, you haven't identified why you failed last time. You don't identify what went wrong in the fact that I failed in whatever area it is. You've got to identify to defeat the enemy. Some of you are alcoholics and drug addicts. And, the one question you have to ask yourself is, how did it happen? How did I get back to that place again? You didn't capture the thought. And you haven't made a habit of capturing the thought in life itself. And so you're very unaware of your surroundings. You're not paying attention to what you're thinking. You're acting as you used to act instead of acting the way God wants you to act. You're thinking your old thoughts instead of what God would have you think. So you're being deceived and don't even know it because you're not paying attention. And he will always eventually carry you right back to those strongholds that have always brought you down in the past. It doesn't have to necessarily be alcohol or drugs. It could be anything that he might use against you. So you bring the thought into captivity, and that's what you have to do in the process. Okay, as you identify it, eventually you're going to bring the thought into captivity. Identify, examine, and identify, and then you make a decision where you're going to cast it out or not. Okay? Is this a good thought or a bad thought? Is this going to be good for me or bad for me? Is me getting angry right now going to accomplish anything? Is it going to be destructive or constructive? Is it going to build up or is it going to tear down? What am I trying to accomplish? Am I wanting everybody just to do whatever I say? Is that what it's about? Then you got to say to yourself, that's exactly what it's about. I'm mad because everybody's not doing what I want them to do. And you know you're going to be very unsuccessful in that plan because you're going to always be angry because they're not going to always do what you want them to do. Nobody is. They don't even know what you want to do, and you don't either in most cases. So you're going to find yourself in a state of anger over and over again. So you take the thought captive, the idea captive, and you compare it to the obedience of Christ. Or would you compare it to God's Word? You look at how you know, most of you know how to respond. This is not like, you're reinventing the wheel here. Many of you understand enough about right and wrong and so forth to at least have the concept down. And so we say to ourselves, am I wanting to do right here or am I wanting to do wrong? Am I disobedient in my thinking or am I being obedient? Am I being obedient to God here or am I wanting to be obedient to what I want to do? See? So I gets in the way of much of this, and so anger comes up when I don't get what he wants. Okay? So, but we compare it to the obedience of Christ. In other words, and that's why you have to be in God's Word And I say to you on a daily basis, because God's going to give you the rationale and the power and to identify and to find yourself in obedience to God. Not only from that you be punished if you're not, but because you want to. A desire to be obedient to God. And that's when you've really made some progress, okay? And being ready in verse 6 to punish all disobedience, okay? Being willing to punish all disobedience when you see it. So trying to say to yourself, oh boy, I messed up. And asking God to forgive you, and then those around you to forgive you. And then forgiveness, when you forgive or receive forgiveness, when you ask forgiveness, it really means that you don't intend to do that again. Many of us continue to ask over and over and over to God and to others to forgive us. And it seems like a fruitless effort of just continually repeating ourselves, because we are really not willing to make the change necessary to where we don't get to have to ask for forgiveness over and over again, because we're not in control of that bondage or that anger, if we're talking about anger here, which we are tonight. So we learn or ready to punish the failures we have in the area of obedience. In other words, I'm not doing that again. I'm going to work toward defeating this enemy. I'm not going to say that it's just who I am and you need to get along. I'm going to recognize that I have failed and I continue to fail, and I've got to defeat this enemy. It's not to manage it. I don't want you managing anything. I want God to cast it out of you. I want him to defeat the power. It's a spiritual problem. And you can't massage evil and sin and make it work. It's got to be removed. It's got to be cast out. And so many try to manage anger, and that's what the world is about. It's about going and getting a pill that knocks the highs and the lows off, whatever, to try to nurture, and try to get us where we can just at least get along in the world. You're not solving anything. Matter of fact, you're actually building a stronger bondage within you. You have to be willing to defeat it and for it to be cast out or to be removed. A bondage must be dealt with very severely. It must be punished very greatly, and you have to sacrifice in many cases through the process to defeat your enemies. Okay, no enemy is going to be defeated by just simplicity. We have a very trained, and our special forces is ones that I'm very impressed with. We lost one last week that fell out of that C-130 in a training mission out in the ocean there somewhere. But they don't get to where they are by not training. In other words, they're some very elite group. They have to meet some standards that only a few can meet. And they're risking their lives every day in training. And so for you to defeat the enemy that is before you, you're going to have to be willing to sacrifice and put in much more than most of us are putting in the area of submission. That goes right back to submission. Are you willing to submit to God, or are you just playing games with him, wanting all the benefits without the hard work that goes with it? You're somewhere in the middle, somewhere there, I guess. But wherever it is, we need more if we're going to defeat the power of anger. It is a tough one. And everybody, just about everybody has a problem in some area at some time in their life with anger. And so declare it in your life and go to work on it, okay? Let's look a little further, if you will. Go to Romans 12. Romans 12. Verse 18. if it is possible, as much as it depends on you, live peaceably with all men. Beloved, do not avenge yourselves, but rather give place to wrath. For it is written, vengeance is mine, I will repay, says the Lord. Therefore, if your enemy is hungry, feed him. If he's thirsty, give him a drink. So in so doing, you will heap coals of fire on his head. So what is your opinion of this coals of fire on his head? What is that describing? Huh? The wrath? Okay. 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 Yeah. That's a good description of putting coal on their head. In other words, I really, really want to get really angry, and you're not allowing me to get that angry. Yeah. Because for all the hateful things you're saying to them, they're still trying to love you. That really makes you mad, doesn't it? That's coals of fire on your head, in a sense. It's a place that very few ever reach, spiritually speaking, to where you're capable of that. Feeding your enemy, giving him a drink when he's hungry, and not allowing evil to overcome you, but overcome evil with good in verse 21. In other words, you can see the lack of bondage here. You can see that the bondage is on the other side, and you're actually giving them the opportunity to find freedom because you're showing them the way out of the bondage of anger. And sometimes when I deal with people and one is raging, in the past I've had, and I'm not suggesting to you marriage counseling. I've done some of that in the past. It's not my forte, okay, I'll just be honest with you, but I will be glad to try to help you, but I don't really think I'm very good at marriage counseling. But one of the things that you do recognize in marriage counseling is that there's a lot of arguments in those that are struggling within a relationship, and it takes two to argue, right? It takes two to fight. And what I will say to one is, don't feed the beast. In other words, don't feed the argument. Okay? Don't one-up them over and over again. You're feeding the argument or feeding the beast. Try to defeat the beast by not feeding it. So how would you go about not feeding the beast? Do what? Okay, but she's on you, man. But she's following you around. You walk into the other room and she's just like a little dog on you. So get back. Oh, that might not work. That might feed the beast. Okay, give up. Matt gives up. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, well, but she's angry right now. Now I don't know why we're talking about. We done turned this thing around where the woman's mad, but it can go either way. But to not feed the beast, so somebody comes in angry. I mean, really angry, and you might have even had a part in it. Maybe you didn't. So, but before long, they done made you mad, right? And so, what do? Go fishing. Well, I've met with them, and they said, she ain't spoke to me in 2 weeks. Now, that's not feeding the beast, but is that the answer? Speak the truth in love. Okay? Wouldn't that kind of be a pretty... Let me just say this in one occasion. It was a kind of a rage that would occur, and it would include the partner in some way, but not necessarily. But if you include yourself at all, it just made it worse. So what do? My answer was just pray. Keep your mouth shut. Do not pray out loud by saying, Lord, have mercy on my husband right now. He is in the midst of sinning before you. No, don't say those words. Keep your mouth shut, but pray and ask God to stop this beast of anger. Not your husband or your wife. It's the Spirit speaking through them that is creating this problem right here. When you, as a child of God, can recognize Satan speaking through you and speaking through others and begin to pray and ask him to remove it, now you're making some progress spiritually, and you're getting closer to maturity, and you're not caught up as children, always crying about things that don't go your way. Those who can see, Jesus saw, he walked up onto Jerusalem, and he wept when he looked down. What did he weep about? He wept about the brokenness of men and women. When you see these things happening around you, you don't feed the beast, or try not to feed the beast, because you see where it's coming from. Just like the recognition of the anger, the recognition of the fear, the recognition of the confusion and chaos, you're recognizing Satan speaking through someone, and you're not going to feed that anymore. You're done with that. That's how you put coals on their head, because it's not feeding it, and the fire goes out. It defeats itself. And that's exactly what happened in the case that I was mentioning. What happened last week? Did you not feed the beast? I didn't feed the beast. So what happened? Well, he ranted and raved for about 3 or 4 minutes and went to sleep. Where otherwise it might have been all night we've been in this war. So it works. God will help you and then if you're the one doing the ranting and raving, hey, don't just depend on her or him not feeding the beast. You fight your own battle. When you start or begin, or even before you speak, before the words come out, capture the thought and stop it. You're frustrated with work. You're frustrated with this. You're anxiety-ridden over that. You're this or that. It's not going to do you any good to rant and rave at home, because they in most cases they have no power to fix it in the first place. Okay? So it's a war. It's a war. Any other comments on that? Psalms 37. Psalms 37, verse 8. Actually, verse 7. 37, 7 of Psalms. Rest in the Lord, in other words, or find contentment or peace in the Lord, and wait patiently for him. Okay? Do not fret. because of him who prospers in his way, because of the man who brings wicked schemes to pass. Cease what? From anger, and forsake wrath. Once again, do not fret. It only causes harm. Do not fret. Is that a common word today or a common thought? What does that mean? Do not fret. No, anxiety and worry and all the things that goes with it. It's attached. You can see where it in the Bible does very clearly attaches anger with these other spiritual conditions. Okay, and so you don't defeat them one at a time. You defeat them all together. You have to deal with fear. You have to deal with anxiety. You have to deal with confusion, and you have to deal with anger. You deal with them because they're all intertwined and they feed off of each other. So you defeat them. You defeat them by the power of God, by capturing the thought, identifying the fear, identifying the anxiety, identifying the confusion, identifying the anger. But yet that leads you to the power to defeat them. Okay? And so you rest in the Lord, wait patiently for him. The process is going to take time to win and defeat. Patiently means I'm willing to finish the course. I'm willing to finish the race. I'm not going to start and just finish or give it a few days or a few moments and expect results. It's going to come through the process. And really anyone who has finished this program here, they can look back and see a process that took place, most of it in their own mind, in their own heart, and their own thoughts and their own ideas. The ones who have completed the process are in a better place to succeed. The results will be much better but you can't necessarily identify every aspect of the process. That's what I tried to give for you here, is to help you to identify what step of the process you're in and making sure that you don't leave out some very important parts of the process. Folks, we have proven that the process that is laid out for you, if you don't pay attention to the process, your results are not going to be good. Okay? You've got to finish the process. God is laying out for you his plan. You have to submit to him. You have to be willing to help to identify. You have to be willing to cast out and to remove. You've got to see this happen. You've got to capture the thoughts. You've got to be willing to go through the process. The process is in the Word every day, right? The process is being hooked up in a church like this to where you can be accountable. The process is laid out for you, and you cannot leave out parts of that and expect to have success. We've seen that in those who fail, they fail to continue the process, or they short circuit the process to get to another place. Colossians 3:8, right quick. Colossians 3:8. If these things were easy to defeat, everybody would have already accomplished it. So to defeat the power of anger, as most of you probably would say tonight, that's a challenge. That's a real challenge in my life, to defeat that power or that stronghold. So it's going to take some hard work. Colossians 3, verse 8. Well, let's just go to verse 5 and kind of see the prospect of where, therefore, put to death your members which are on the earth. These members is not people, it's spiritual issues like we're talking about, which are on earth: fornication, uncleanness, passions, evil desires, and covetousness, which is idolatry. Because of these things, the wrath of God is coming upon the sons of disobedience, in which you yourselves once walked when you lived in them. But, verse 8, but now you yourselves are to put off all these things: anger and wrath and malice and blasphemy and what filthy language out of your mouth. Do not lie to one another, since you have put off the old man with his deeds, and have put on the new man, which is renewed in knowledge according to the image of him who created him. Filthy language out of your mouth. I'm going to be honest with you. I walked outside between Sunday school and church last Sunday. And I walked out on the little porch here, and I just stood there. And I heard filthy language here. I heard filthy language here. I heard filthy language here. Out of many of you. Just in normal conversations, I guess. I mean, nobody was angry. Nobody was mad. It was just filthy language. If you want to measure where you are, your mouth tells a story right off. If you want to know where you are in your walk, your mouth is telling you a story of where you are. If your mouth is still filthy and you're talking the way you used to talk, you've made very little progress. Sorry. You're describing to everyone, you're speaking and describing exactly where you are. So take it not as a criticism tonight, but take it as a something to work on, right? And we've always had a little trouble with filthy language out at the ranch, right? Especially when I'm not around. I don't know. I mean, it's like when everybody's not around, we go back to our old way of talking. Okay? I'm not your daddy. And you're going to graduate from here one of these days. And you're going to go somewhere else probably. I want you to work on it. I want you to defeat your own enemies. I want you to recognize, capture the thoughts, capture the words, and recognize that those things are describing your heart, and I need to work on my heart if those kind of things are coming out of it, right? So if you're really serious about the process of being transformed into the image of Christ, your mouth is one of the first things that's got to be dealt with, okay? And if you don't get that old mouth under control, you've made very little progress spiritually speaking. Okay, so what else? Put off anger and wrath, which is like taking anger and multiplying it, and really having a plan to accomplish more anger. All right, and so there you go. Do you hear me now? All right. Ephesians 6. For the younger group, I called it potty mouth. But that ain't all that good either. Ephesians 6. Verse 4. This kind of falls right in. And fathers, and this can be ladies as well, do not provoke your children to wrath, but bring them up in training and admonition of the Lord. I mentioned it Sunday, and I really believe that we train our children in these spiritual areas, and we certainly train them in the area of angers. And we do a lot of damage with anger in our lives around our children. We teach them how to be angry, for one thing, but we also give them a lot of fear and anxieties over what you might do when you're angry and so forth. You have to understand your position. Ladies, mothers, same thing, but fathers especially. I really see that the influence of fathers in a ministry like this always comes to the top. The father, just about always is the one who has either held it together or destroyed. It's really one or the other. The father is a very, very powerful figure in the minds of children. Not to minimize the mother by any means, but he can be very destructive in his anger. So don't provoke your children, and raise them, or be a leader and raise them and to nurture them in the admonition of the Lord. Teach them about God's ways, and when they leave, they will return to Him. They might seem like they didn't hear a word you said, but they did. They will. And in time, they will come back to Him in the future. Hopefully they never leave, but sometimes they do. Sometimes they got to plant their own seed and move their own way for a while, but then they return. Any comments or thoughts or ideas on anger? Okay, I'm going to leave it alone. I'm not going to go back there again for a while. We'll go to the next one, all right? Thank you for being here. See you next time.